Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today we've got a really interesting one for you. We've got a basket case we're going to be working on. It's a Penn Squidder that was sent to me by a channel viewer, Eric, and he had asked me if I can put it back together. It looks like the project got started and then maybe got a little bit too complicated and wound up in a parts bin. But we'll go ahead and fix it, and I'll show you. I'll give you some tips along the way in terms of how to work on these reels and how to put them back together should you find the basket case at a flea market, or maybe you started a project and got overwhelmed by it and don't know how to do it. So we'll go ahead and take a look. So the first thing I always suggest is go to a website. In this case, I went to pennparts.com, which is now mysticparts.com, and I pulled the schematic for the Penn Reels 140 Squidder. Now, the reason I did that was because it came in bags. So we have all kinds of pieces and parts, and hopefully we've got all the parts that are belong to this reel. And you know, if we do, we're going to be able to put it back together. If not, we're going to be able to go to mysticparts.com and order the replacement parts to make this reel whole. So my first suggestion, of course, is to make sure that you know that you have all the pieces and parts. Now, I'm familiar with this reel, so I'm going to do a mental inventory of the parts as we take them out here. We're going to perform a cleaning and a servicing on this reel in addition to putting it back together again. So I'll show you some of the tips and techniques for that, and hopefully at the end of the day we're going to have a reel that's operational and back in Eric's hands quickly. So in this basket, this bag, we have a pinion gear. We have one of the springs from the side plate. We have the bearing side plate. And this one's got some gunk on it. So I'm going to start right away by just taking some general degreaser, in this case a WD-40, and I'm going to let that thing set because we want to clear the junk out of that bearing and bearing side plate. It's just some old lube. And while I'm doing that, you're noticing that I have a protective glove on my hand. I like to do that to keep the junk off my hands, and to the best extent that I can. I always run into a little bit of a problem. I can't seem to work with a glove on my right hand, but if I could, certainly I would recommend that. If you can, I would say go ahead and do that. I'm also going to test the bearing at this point. One of the ways I test the bearing is just take a Phillips head screwdriver, make sure that it's rolling, which it does. You can see it if you do that little quick test. Okay, so I've got a side plate, and then if I was playing along with the schematic, I could go ahead and put a big check on that, but again, mentally is what I'm doing it here. Let's take a look at what's in this bag now. This bag looks like the external pieces for the handle assembly. And so we have a handle, we have the star drag, we have the ferrule, we have the screw for the handle, and we have the lock nut. So those are all correct. Again, a little bit of dirt on this one, so let's go ahead and clean that out. And I use a Q-tip to get into those hard to reach spots. You can see the gunk that was on there, and make sure that the outside's clean as well. So if you have a little bit of accumulated corrosion in that, sometimes just a piece of steel wool is going to be enough to get the junk off of there. Sometimes you need a little bit more help, and if you need a little bit more help, I recommend a metal polish. In this case, it happens to be a car's chrome polish. Works very well. And just put a little bit of that on it. It's got a little bit of a grit, and as you can see, we've got an accumulated dried grease on the handle. We're going to just go ahead and rub that, and it'll come right up. Same thing with the star adjuster knob here. Got a little bit of grease on there as well, so let's get that off while we're at it. And then on the back of this, typically you have some in the indentation, so go ahead and just grab that cotton swab again, or some other vehicle, to reach in there and get that cleaned up as well. Alright, so those are going in the parts tray. And I keep all my pieces and parts in that one tray, that way I don't lose them when I go to try and reassemble. Alright, so we got another bag out of the way. Let's go ahead and see what's next here. We've got a spool. There's no moving parts on the spool, so that's good. Let's just grab that spool while we're at it, make sure that that bag is empty. And on a squidder, a lot of people wonder, you know, how can I tell a squidder spool? It's easy. because of that extended burring, you have extended space in the in that spool. So if you're looking, don't confuse this one with a Beachmaster 155 spool. It's not. You have that indentation sitting there on that one. Okay, that's 3 bags down. Let's go take a look at the 4th one. These should be the side plate screws, hopefully, that go along with the side plate that was over there. And we've got 2, 4, 5. I'm hoping to find a 6th one. I'm not seeing the 6th one. We may have to go get a replacement on that. Oh, there it is. It's in the bag. All right, so interesting to note on this is that there are 2 different size screws. There's a long and a short. The short ones belong on the reel seat. The long ones belong in the cross posts. And I'm curious why the disassembly started by taking that side plate off. That's not usually the one that comes off, but we'll go ahead and take a look. Let's go over to the main action now. So here is the reel. We got some interesting stuff here. So when this was taken off, somebody took the throw off. This throw is used to remove the anti-reverse for whatever reason. That's been disconnected. That doesn't need to be in a general servicing, but while it's off, we can go ahead and just clean that as well. There seems to be a little bit of tarnish sitting on that, so we'll just kind of take that. And you know what, I'm going to just put that one right back on. Again, there's no purpose to that one being off. So let's just see if we can't reinstall right now. Well, let's wait till we get this off. Then we have the bridge. The bridge actually left the gears in there, and that makes sense because to service this reel, you need to take it off with that take apart screw system, not from the inside like you might with other reels. So let's see if we can't get that off. A little bit of effort. Wow. And we've got a couple of issues going on here with the bridge, right? We have a free spool mechanism here with the release spring that's not properly seated. We've got a lot of gunk in here. So let's just take that out if we can. I'm just going to push that through. Get the gear out of there. A lot of grease on it. Something in there. I'm not quite sure what that might be. We'll find out. And then this is your main gear with the drags in there. We'll take a look at that in a moment. We might as well go ahead and take this off because of the bad spring. And as you can notice, I have a lot of my tools right in front of me, and a lot of these tools just over time have just come to sit in my tray because you never know what you're going to need. But in this case, this one's a fairly common one. I just have a little socket on there because this is kind of a standard nut and bolt system, and that'll help us to reset this. And then here's the frame, and the frame you can tell is everything's loose on it. We can't tell why everything is loose. That's a history lesson for another day probably, but we're gonna have to go ahead and tighten that up. So why don't we start the rebuild then? Then we'll start right with this frame here. All of these screws need to be tightened. Now some folks asked me along the way, since we got loose nuts and bolts here, some folks asked me along the way, what about Loctite? Why don't we just use that and keep everything nice and firm and won't slip from boat vibration or the like? And my concern with Loctite as always has been that once you put that in there, generally speaking, you're not getting that out. And while it might be okay here, generally speaking, it's not okay on these reels because you need access to the side plates and the like. Okay, this one is spinning as I'm turning it with a screwdriver, so I'm going to grab it with the pliers, but I'm not putting the pliers onto the chrome because that's going to rip it up. So I put it onto a felt pad. In this case, it's just a little kitchen scrubby, and then I should be able to tighten that down. There we go. That tightens it down without scarring the metal. You want to make sure that, cosmetically, that you do the best you can to keep these things in condition. So my guess is this reel was probably out on a boat that had a lot of engine vibration on it and shook the screws loose over time. But that's only speculation, right? Maybe Eric can fill us in a little bit on that. I have a post that's running here. We're going to show you that again. We're going to take that kitchen scrubby pad. We're going to hold it with the pliers. I like the channel lock pliers because there's a lot of versatility in them. Then we're going to tighten that screw down. There we go. One more. And this will be kind of done here. There you go. We're tight on that. A lot of stuff, junk crud, whatever we want to use the scientific term for it. So I'm just going to hit that quickly with some WD-40, and we'll grab another one of those cotton swabs and get that stuff out of the channels there. And we're on our way to reassembly, right? So we've got a good starting point here with the frame. We're going to go ahead and put the other side of the frame on. That will be this one. We started cleaning this one at the beginning of the video by just squirting it down there. This is a bearing. I like to oil bearings, so I use, in this case, I use Reelex, which is an aftermarket oil for fishing reels. Penn makes one as well, a Penn Penn Reel Precision Oil. But just make sure whatever you use, you have a real oil and not just a general purpose oil. Okay, we found those 6 screws before. Those are the side plate screws. So let's go ahead and put those in. Again, as I noted earlier, you have a long screw and a short screw. The short screw belongs in the reel seat. The long screws, there's 4 of them. They belong in the 4 posts. So let's go ahead and put that back on now that we have some firm posts to attach them to. And folks ask me about the screwdriver I use too. This is getting to be interesting as I do these YouTube videos. I get a lot of very good questions. So this screwdriver, no, it is not a Penn Reels screwdriver. It is an electrician's screwdriver. You can tell that by the rubber mount on it. I don't know the brand. I've probably worn out over time. You can see that I've lost quite a bit of what was padding at one point, but that's okay. I like to feel the screwdriver in my hands. But what I like more about it is this tip matches almost perfectly to the inset on the screw, and I find it's the most effective tool that I have anyway for taking out these side plate screws on the older Penn reels without stripping them. Okay, and then the smaller screws, again, they go in the reel seat, so you can see that you know right away. And that's because if you try and put the longer screws into the reel seat, what's going to happen is they're going to protrude out of the hole in the back here. And if they come out longer, they have a chance to catch line as it's unspooling and snag up your reel, right? Or break the line, worse. So, okay, so we've got the frame pretty much back on with the exception of that, that toggle switch that's the anti-reverse override on the dog. So let's go ahead and just put this last screw in here and we can set this aside. So we've cleaned the frame, we've tightened the posts, we've oiled the bearing, and that frame is pretty much ready to go. Might as well take care of the spool while we're at it. So I put oil on that bearing, but I still like to put a little bit of grease onto the spool post there. And that's the clicker assembly is on here as well. So we're going to drop that in here, and we're just going to set that whole assembly aside. Okay, we're going to not go far with that little grease. We will use that. So let's take care of this side plate then. Again, we got some junk on the overall surface, so let's go ahead and hit that with a general degreaser like a WD-40. Now the WD-40, you hear me saying it's a general degreaser. It's not a very good oil. I wouldn't recommend just relying on WD-40 as a real oil, but to get the junk off of it, I found it's a very good product. Now there's others out there. There's that citric-based cleaner and some others. Go ahead and use that. I've heard people using brake cleaners and some other things. You know, if it serves its purpose, that's wonderful. Go ahead and do that. In my case, I'm just used to it. We've got a loose spring, so we're going to pull out now the free spool mechanism, the Eccentric, and then we're going to reseat that. Before we go any further. So most of this can be done on your bench here. There's no fancy tools required, just a little bit of strength. I'm sorry if I'm off camera with this. I'm just putting that eccentric back into the hole. And those of you that watch the videos know I don't have a lot of hand strength, so that's what's kind of causing me to do that at the moment. Yep, I brought it out of the eccentric hole here. So let's get that back in. And these have to be lined up pretty square, and that's where I'm having a little bit of difficulty at the moment. I'm not square in getting this in, but I will get it in. I always do. There we go. So we're in now. What we won't be in on is the back side of this, where we have to attach. So what I like to do on this one is you have to be a little gentle on this. You don't want to booger it up, but I find the most effective way to reset that spring is to grab the we're off the side again. These require a little bit of patience. I'm going to go pull that out again, reset. I apologize if this is taking a little bit longer. I wasn't thinking that this was going to be the problem on the reel, but it is a problem. All right, let's try that one more time. We know we can get it in because we just did. There we go. And now what we want to do is we want to rotate this ever so slightly until it kind of catches in the median. And you can generally find the balance point. I haven't found the balance point, but you can generally find the balance point. There it is. And then when you find the balance point, then you can put the pre-spool release lever back on. And you can get that little nut attachment there. So this basket case came with a lot of problems, didn't it? It came with a loose frame that we showed you how to do that with that pad. It's come with a detached spring for the free spool release, which we showed you there. And it's even come with a detached override switch here for the side, which is almost never a reason in the world to take that off, but it's off. So we'll show you how to put that back on as well. So this one is the override. You have to push back on this button to make sure that this is sitting proud over here so that you can put the switch back on. This is where working with a glove becomes a little bit more difficult. But we will get this. So this is what's called majoring on the minors. We're spending a lot of time on some things that you just wouldn't expect to be spending your time on, but that's okay. It just it adds to the length of the video, unfortunately, but I apologize for that in advance. I think I got it that time. Nope, not yet. This is the cam that we're trying to, why don't we just poke it out, show you what we're doing here. There's a cam here that this rides on. That's what we're trying to hook up to here. That little cam is going to throw the anti-reverse. I'm just trying to get the solid point there, the mounting point. Alright, so it's going to mount like that is what we're trying to do. So let's go ahead and get that back in here. And again, this is very rarely, if ever, taken out of the reel. But it's out now, so we'll go ahead and work that one more time here. I think I got it that time. Alright, this screw goes back in. So we got a lot of lessons we're learning here on things that kind of are rare. But nonetheless, Eric, I hope you appreciate this. Alright, we're going back in with this one now. Now the cam will move, and you can see that cam moving. That's going to trip the anti-reverse mechanism to allow you to backpedal the reel without using the drags or the free spool assembly. We're just going to clean that up while we're at it. Okay, so we've cleaned up the inside. We've reinstalled the spring so that it works properly. Let's do one more piece of cleaning here, which is on the inside bearing. So folks are asking me, I got this a couple of times, is there a ceramic bearing for the Penn Squidder? And I haven't seen it. And I believe I haven't seen it because I think these bearings are pressed into the case. I'm not sure. But if anybody knows if they make these and how to get them, that would be appreciated. Okay, so we're back here now. Now we're looking for the other pieces and parts that came with the reel. And I'm looking for another one of these springs. There should have been two of them in here. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a second one. But as I'm looking through my parts basket, I'm not seeing it. And I may have overlooked that. So I have surplus parts. I'm just going to go grab one so that we don't hold this up any longer in terms of the video. And we'll come back and find that part another time we look. Most of the pieces and parts that I have, folks have asked about that as well. Most of the pieces and parts I have are because I've got reels that just simply couldn't be repaired. So especially the older Penn ones, a lot of these have just, you know, they've lived a good life, but they're gone, so to speak. And if you found yourself in a situation like this where you couldn't find the part, you would have to go back and go buy that part from, oh, here they are. It's over here. Just like that. There was one more bag that we hadn't emptied out. Okay, not a problem. But you can go to penparts.com and get that. Okay, so we've got the face plate. Let's go over to the bridge. The bridge is kind of dirty. Let's go ahead and do what we normally do with this, which would be to take off this pinion gear sleeve. You do that by knocking out the pin. I use a little punch, and the pin will slide out. In this case, I just hammered it right into the wood. That's pretty good. And then you can pull the gear sleeve off. And again, we want to make sure that it's clean. I don't know what happened with this reel, but it's got a lot of dust and grime and stuff on it. In this case, I'm just using a paper towel to wipe it off. This is a chromed sleeve, so it's pretty durable. It doesn't hold a lot of stuff. Doesn't wind up with a lot of corrosion or anything. And then on a gear sleeve, you can do a couple of things. Penn uses oil. You can put a light lube of the blue grease on that, and then to reinstall that sleeve, you just simply slip it over, and then you put the holding pin in place, just the way we knocked it out. And again, this is like that eccentric up top there. You gotta kind of hit it square up in order for it to go in, but once it goes in, you can just push it back in. And you want to make sure you push through all the way so that it's not hanging proud, because if it's hanging proud, it's not going to work properly. All right, over to the drag stack then. Again, I'm hoping that the drags and gears are okay. I've looked quickly at them. It seems like they are. Just looks like they're full of grease and junk, so we'll go clear that out. They seem to have come out okay. That bottom drag I'm going to leave in there. It looks to be okay. Okay, so it lays out with a drag. Look at the stuff on this. Wow. So general observation here is that the reel has not been serviced in some time. I guess that's why we were taking it apart to begin with, and got into the troubles. Okay, drag washers seem to be okay. So we've got just the way it lays out. So we have the core, first one's in there. I'm going to just go put that on. We follow it with metal, make sure it's nice and clean. We can go ahead and lube these. I use a Cal's Universal drag grease for that. We don't need much because there's a lot of grease on there already. Another reason why I wear that glove on my hand, you can put the grease on and then you can work it in just simply by running it through your fingers. The middle metal washer has the ears on it, or the keys, and they sit in the recesses of the main gear. Here's your last of your drag washers. Again, I work it in with my fingers. Last of the metal, all cleaned up. Just close up the drag grease.